Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to another episode. I'm so happy to have you joining me. Today's episode is all going to be about hijab. A very, very, very sensitive topic on social media, a very, very difficult topic as well. I think that if you even remotely have been on social media, you know that it doesn't matter what time of year it is, it doesn't matter what day it is. Hijab is always a topic. There's always somebody yelling their opinions about hijab. There's always somebody saying something good. There's always somebody saying something bad. Then there's always the people saying that you're oppressed. I want to come to y'all and talk to my sisters in a way where it's calm. Let's talk about these different things that make it hard for people to put on a hijab. Everyone has their reasonings. I'm going to try my best to cover the top few that I've seen very, very often in my DMs. If you are a new listener here, I have many episodes. I think over 200 episodes. I have other episodes on hijab. I have episodes on how to get out of haram relationships. I have episodes on how to manage your anxiety. I have episodes on how to manage overthinking. I try my best to talk about everything and anything. And I try my best to give advice from a standpoint on how I got myself to overcome or do certain things. And also how I feel like advice can be beneficial and conveyed to help others. I can absolutely guarantee you that you might disagree with me on some things. I can absolutely guarantee you might not like something I say. I can absolutely guarantee you that I will make mistakes. But what I will tell you is that I make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows me to convey myself correctly on this topic and allows me to help you to get to your goal, and obviously me as well. I'll be the first to say that I can be more modest, I can be more better, and I'm well aware of that. I never come on social media, if you're new again, just saying, I never come on social media and say like I'm a super righteous, perfect person. I'm not. I'm a hijabi. I try my best to dress modest. I try my best to be a good Muslim. I try my best to be good in my character. I try my best to do good. But I'm a human being at the end of the day, like everyone else, and nobody's going to be 100% in every place. I want to start off this discussion by letting you know that I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to pressurize you. I'm here to just talk to you. I want you to feel like we're just on a phone call and we're just talking about this. Because in a world of social media where everyone is forcing you in a negative way, I want to kindly remind you of this obligation in a way that can also motivate you and help you. My hijab journey is nothing short of a very long-winded story, which quite frankly, I have never shared on social media, and I don't ever intend on it, but I will say that my hijab journey was nothing short of hard. It was hard. I will say that now when I look at myself in the mirror and I think about who I was before, I don't recognize myself. And I think that comes also in modesty. I think that comes in who I am. I think that comes in everything. And that's why one of the 99 names of Allah that I love and I believe in so firmly is how Allah is the most subtle. And the way that He changes you, the way that you start to progress in your modesty, the way you start to progress in your life, it's something you don't see at first. But then when it starts to happen and you start to go on that journey, you look back and you're like, wow, I was once like that. Also, guys, it's thundering again. Sorry, it's been raining this entire week. So if you guys hear some rain, cut me some slack. But that's one of the things that I will say on my hijab journey. I will say that's very hard. And I'll also tell you this. I went from living in a state where there was thousands and thousands. So like you could not walk a square inch without seeing a hijabi. All my friends were hijabis, to moving to a place where it is very Islamophobic, where I don't see hijabis at all, where just seeing a person of color is kind of rare. I moved to a completely different place and it was so hard. But you know what? I thought that I would struggle more here. And I did. I struggled a very good bit when I moved to a state where it was, mainly more like Christian. It was mainly more other faiths. It was not Muslim at all. And Muslims were viewed very badly. I had many high school teachers. I had many middle school teachers. I had many teachers that were kind of edgy, that were kind of like asked me some pokey questions about my hijab. I had many experiences at school with people who were very Islamophobic. I had them, okay? But what I will say is that the way, shukr alhamdulillah, the way that my hijab got more strength in the fact that I was able to become more confident. That was a journey, and I'll share that. But I feel like it was much more stronger now than it ever was before. I want to start off by telling you the obvious things that you might already know. Hijab is an obligation, okay? Point blank done, period, okay? Now, I understand it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the easiest thing in the world and you're not going to have any problem. Just put it on your head. No, right? Hijab is hard. It's difficult. It's not easy. But we have to come to the fact that this is an obligation, okay? Me and you don't get to debate on that one. There's some things where me and you can differ, but we cannot differ on Allah's ruling. We can't differ on the fact that this is mandatory. This is an obligation, okay? That's the first thing I want to make very, very clear. I am very, very aware and I acknowledge the fact that everyone has their struggles on this path. I get that, but we're not going to not say the hijab's, not an obligation. It is. Hijab's an obligation, and that is that. I want to share with you a couple ayahs from the Quran. I want you to listen to these ayahs carefully. They all have something in common, okay? First one is 3195 of the Quran. So their Lord accepted their prayer that I will not waste the work of a worker among you, whether male or female. In the Quran in 4:124, if any do deeds of righteousness, be they male or female, and have faith, they will enter heaven, and not the least injustice will be done to them. In the Quran 1697, whoever does good, whether male or female, and he is a believer, we will most certainly make him live a happy life, and we will most certainly give them their reward for the best of what they did. In the Quran in 40:40, whoever does an evil, he shall not be recompensed with aught but the like of it. Whoever does good, whether male or female, and he is a believer, these shall enter the garden, in which they shall be given sustenance without measure. In the Quran 4:40, surely Allah does not do injustice to the weight of an atom, and if it is a good deed, he multiplies it and gives from himself a greater reward. Why did I share these ayahs with you? The gist of these verses above is that a believer, whether male or female, who does an act of righteousness, whether that's being modest, covering themselves up, protecting themselves from non-mahrams, whatever it may be, they will be recompensed in the following ways. One, that his or her effort will not go to waste, so they'll be rewarded for it. Two, in this world, they'll have a good life, a fulfilling life, and a satisfying life, inshallah. Three, the reward they will get in the hereafter will be in accordance with the best of what they used to do. 4, there will be great rewards even for small deeds, because Allah, out of His generosity, multiplies the reward of even a small deed. 5, we can see that inshallah there is a guarantee of paradise. 6, being that in paradise they will be given sustenance without any limitations. Next one being that no injustice will be done to them in the hereafter. In a world that constantly makes hijab feel like something negative, something that is oppressing you, or something that you should be ashamed about, or even within our own Muslim community, something that is going to detrimentally, be a reason that people are going to start gossiping about you, people are going to start debating about, this hot topic. I want to remind you that the hijab is actually a very, very soft thing. Hijab is a very gentle thing. The concept of hijab is a very, very loving, and it's a very, very, I have no words to say but gentle. It's a very gentle concept. This is a very serious obligation, of course, but we have to approach it in a way where we can understand it, okay? So this, first of all, these ayahs, I want these to kind of dispel the doubts of what you're having regarding, a reward of wearing your hijab or not. Inshallah, through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will, we can see in these ayahs, we can understand that a woman will be rewarded for observing hijab and modesty. And if one considers these acts to be of righteousness, and of course these are acts of righteousness, that's even more of a bigger deal. Modesty and observing hijab from ghair mahram are a direct means of guarding one's chastity. Guarding one's chastity is also something that is greatly desired and aimed by the Sharia. So the Quran mentions that the reward of guarding one's chastity is forgiveness of sins and a mighty reward. What a reward can be mightier than what Allah Himself has called mighty? So think about that, because in the ayah we hear that there is a mighty reward. This is 33:35 at the end of the ayah. It says Allah has prepared for them forgiveness and a mighty reward. So think that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the most powerful, the most strongest, the most, just all-encompassing, is saying that He's going to give you, He has for you a mighty reward, what is that? We can't even imagine. How big could that be, right? Another beautiful, beautiful thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind is that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that one who clings on to my sunnah during the time of corruption in my ummah will have the reward of a martyr, okay? So a martyr will enter paradise without any questions. We know that in Islam. And if that's the reward of holding fast to the sunnah of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, at a time of widespread corruption, what will be the reward of holding fast to the compulsory acts of the Sharia? That's something I want you to think about. There is an infinite amount of reward here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the word infinite can be less. Allah is so merciful. In the moments when you put on the hijab and you're looking at yourself and you're like, I don't know how I feel about this, and you want to take it off. But then you say to yourself, no, I'm doing this for Allah. That small deed of pushing yourself, that small deed of fighting your nafs. You think it's a minuscule, small little moment before you're leaving your house. Allah says no. This is on your scale. Allah's going to multiply it, inshallah. And this is something that I want you to keep in mind. These rewards, these benefits, there is a huge reward in following the obligations, in doing the things that are correct. And especially when it's hard, especially. You only know how hard you have to fight your nafs to come to this point. You only know how hard you have to fight your nafs to come to a point where you go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you're like, I want to see how I can put on the hijab. Only you know that. These thoughts that keep you up at night, these thoughts that keep you lingering, these are the things that you fight with yourself about within, and you tell yourself, no, Allah's commandment is more important than this. Now that I kind of explained that a bit, I want to talk to you guys how I got myself to put on the hijab, and also some things that motivate me and help me, and I hope that this can help you. I also want to talk about common problems people face. First one, your family doesn't support you. It's happened. I will tell you for a fact that I even know scholars who are very, very religious and their family's religious, but then like one of their siblings, they're like completely different. They don't observe hijab, they don't pray, they don't do these things. It's completely different. In every family, there's a spectrum. Your own family can be very, very religious. Your own family can be, observing the hijab, observing modesty. And then your cousins can be completely different. Very, very different. That's something my mom always says too. A lot of times people think that the greatest differences lie between different cultures, different ethnicities. And of course there are differences there. But I think we're forgetting that now in this era, in this modern era, you can be very different from your own cousins, from your own ethnicity, from your own culture, from your own people. Very different. I'm Pakistani, okay? And I'll tell you that I've met Pakistani people in my life that I'm like, wow, we don't see eye to eye on anything. I have family that I'm like, wow, we like our spectrum's different. Like I've met people from different cultures, different ethnicities that I agree with, that I hold like similar values with than I have with people of my own culture. And that's just that. We are living in a world where there are so many opinions, so many developing things. Some people say like, you know what, it's time to quote, be more modern. It's time to leave the hijab behind. It's time to leave the things behind. It's ridiculous. We don't agree with it. And there's some people that are like, no, this is our religion. This is part of our faith. We don't give in to being this quote, modern, giving up our hijab, giving up our modesty, because that's what's happening in the West. We don't do that. So my point of sharing this is that you are going to differ from the next person. I have a friend who comes from a very, very, very she comes from a culture where Islam is not that much embraced, okay? And she has been working on being more modest, putting on her hijab. You'll always hear things. I have so many friends who hear things from their parents, like, take off those rags. Why are you wearing like a big baggy shirt? You look like a garbage bag. You'll hear things. You'll even hear things from your own parents. I recently went on Instagram and I asked you guys, what topic do you want me to talk about for my late night talks episode? It flooded. Hijab. Please help me with hijab advice. My dad doesn't accept the fact that I'm hijabi. My own mom doesn't want me to be a hijabi. They're literally about to tear up my hijab. So what do I do? Hijab. And guess what? It can be that maybe you have decided you want to put on your hijab, and whether you are 12 or you are 20, when it is time, when you've hit puberty, y'all know you have to wear the hijab. Maybe your parents are not agreeing. Here's the first thing I want to tell you. Your parents agreeing or not agreeing has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that hijab is an obligation. That's it, okay? If your parent said to you, you're not going to pray, are you going to be like, oh shoot, not praying? No. I'm sorry. We have to respect our parents. We have to take care of our parents. We have to make sure that we, of course, respect them and value them. But we do not obey our parents. Let me make that very clear. We do not obey our parents. We don't worship our parents, okay? And I know that that might be something that ruffles some people's feathers. The reality is we respect them, we listen to them, we care for them, and like general nasiha, general things that they might say in a day-to-day, like, oh, can you do this? Like, we do it. We don't know, we don't worship them. If they are saying something to us that goes against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, who do we follow? We follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. Is that not what Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam did? Is that not what he did? He left his own dad. Was that not hard on him? Did he not have feelings? Of course he did. Of course Prophet Ibrahim also had feelings. Of course he probably felt like, wow, that's my dad. How am I supposed to leave him behind? Maybe I should just listen to him. Maybe if I'm an obedient son, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward me. But no. He knows that in our scale of life, we have priorities. Our family, our parents, they hold great priority to us. I know they do. But guess who's above that? Allah. It's not easy for anybody to go against their parents. And I know that if you are feeling conflicted on whether you want to wear the hijab or not, you probably feel guilty. You probably have had to hear things like, oh, you're the worst daughter in the world. You disobey us. You're bad. Or, sometimes the interesting one is when parents do like this reverse manipulation where they'll say things like, oh, really? You're putting on the hijab when we said not to put on the hijab, and you're sitting out here acting all righteous and holy and religious and like you really know about Islam. Well, don't you know that in Islam, you should be respecting your parents? Don't you know that in Islam, you have to listen to what your parents say? Sometimes parents do pull that one, but they will try to do a little reverse psychology moment on you where you'll tell them that, mom, dad, hijab is obligatory. I have to wear it even if you don't want me to. And they'll hit you with the, oh, don't you know it's obligatory? Don't you know it's important to respect your parents? Don't you know that you are literally bound for the worst if you don't listen to your parents? Like, you should listen to us. And then they'll get you in this boat where you'll feel guilty, where they'll do like this emotional blackmail, where they'll make you think like, oh my God, how do I put on this hijab? My parents are going to be upset. My mom is up, late at night crying because she's so depressed that I decided to put on the hijab. Now you're feeling emotionally guilty. I'm causing someone pain. I'm sorry. The reality comes down to the fact that your parents are they're not knowledgeable, they're not educated on this obligation. And even if they're educated, they are not understanding how to implement that education. That's just that. That is just that. That is not being mean, that is not being rude, that is not being ignorant to them. The truth is, if your parents genuinely understood what this obligation was and why you are doing it and the knowledge behind it, they would be the first ones to further support you in doing it. You have to second, understand that they really don't get it. They really don't. There's some parents that they'll be like, yeah, I know it's obligatory, but in the time that we live in, hold on. No. We don't do that. We don't get to just say, in the time that we live in, it's not needed anymore. We don't get to pass fatwas and pass our own opinions when it's convenient. We don't get to do that, okay? That's the next thing. Third thing. Sometimes you're going to have to go against your parents. It's going to suck. But one thing I'll tell you is this. And please listen to this very, very carefully because this was a turning sentence in my life that came in my brain one day. Whenever your parents give you advice on doing something that is against the obligations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put upon you, that is against what Islam tells you to do, they might emotionally blackmail you. They might guilt trip you. They might tell you that, don't you know that Islam says you have to, value and respect your parents, and you're going against me. But in reality, you're fulfilling Allah's obligation. You'll have those moments. But I want to remind you that when your parents are forcing you to do something that goes against Islam, like not putting on your hijab, things among that nature, there will be a time on the Day of Judgment when your parents genuinely will be happy you didn't listen to them. Because a lot of times, this advice that they're giving you of don't put on the hijab, don't do this, don't do that. Guess what? Everyone has to reap their own burden. Of course, you're going to reap your burden of listening to it and not following Allah's obligation. But they're also going to have their own burden of telling you to do such a thing in the first place. They're going to be grateful that you did not listen to them. And that's something I think that you should tell your parents very openly. There's some things you need to have conversations about. And the next time your parents come to you telling you, oh, you know what? That we're telling you don't put on the hijab. It's going to limit your job opportunities. It's going to limit your chances of success. Mom and Dad, I genuinely, I'm telling you, there will be a time on the Day of Judgment where you will be relieved that I did not listen to you. So you can do whatever you want right now, but I don't want you to reap the burden of my decision or me listening to what you say. I don't want that. Of course, everyone has to reap the burden of something, whether that's, giving this advice that isn't good, whether you go against it or not. But we do not want our parents to suffer for a lifetime because you took their advice and went with it for a lifetime. We don't want that. Allah gave each and every single one of us a free will, did He not? He didn't attach our free will to our parents. He attached it to ourselves, our own brain. That's what it's for. Protect yourself from the fire. Protect your own self from these sins, these burdens. Protect yourself and protect your family. Please do not fall into what they are saying. The next thing I'll tell you is this. If you are having a hard time putting on the hijab because you think your in-laws will judge you or your parents will judge you, whatever, look, they'll get used to it. They can tough it out. They'll get used to it, okay? I'm not going to be like this forever. You're not going to be like that forever. We are human beings and we are going to change. We are going to change. And if we are changing for the betterment of our faith, alhamdulillah, that's a blessing. Okay? Don't stop that change. Don't limit that change. If Allah is giving you that knowledge, that wisdom, that this is what you should be doing, and He's put it in your heart, I'm gonna be a hijabi, that's it. It's time for me to do it. It's an obligation. I must do it. Why are you listening to them? Why are you listening to them? Save yourself, save them from the burden, and ultimately, they'll get used to it. Maybe they'll pass snarky comments. Maybe there'll be some really hard dinners. Maybe even for 2-3 years, they'll have a little fit. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Not your business. Out of sight, out of mind. There's some things that we don't talk about, and that's one of them. I had a friend who wanted to become a hijabi, and she contemplated on this like a year or two ago in Ramadan, and she was like, I really want to become a hijabi. Not a single person in her family was a hijabi. None. She actually came from a family which was like very, 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 very different. Like very different. Like they preferred girls to, dress up and do makeup, not wear hijab, like do all this, do all that, etc. And the third, right? Oh my God, guys, it's raining so hard. My heart just dropped. That was so loud. Okay. She came from a family where it was completely different. Like the scene of hijab, the scene of even wearing like a long modest dress was like, whoa, whoa. Anyway, she comes to my house, and I remember that when she came, we sat in our room and we talked, and she said to me, like, I really want to be a hijabi. My mom is flipping. My mom is losing her mind. My mom's like, there's no way I'm going to let you do it. It's going to push you back. You're not going to have good chances in college. You're not going to have a good chance in your career. You're not going to have a good chance in anything. Like, I can't let you be a hijabi. None of our people in our family are like that. We don't do that. Even they're Muslims, they prayed. But hijab was just something that crossed the line for them. When I tell you, me and her, we talked for like 4 hours. Just on the floor, I showed her my hijab collection, and she loved like this specific hijab I had. I said, you take this one, and you're going to go be a hijabi when you get back. You take this hijab, you're going to go be a hijabi when you get back. Anyway, she goes back. A couple weeks later, I get a snap, and it's her, and she's wearing a hijab, and she's like, hey, I'm a hijabi now. Like I grew my little hijab collection and I just put her on. One random day I just woke up and I put her on, and I was like, oh my God, like alhamdulillah, I'm so proud of you. And then I said to her, I was like, how is it at home? How's everyone adjusting? She's like, well, my parents, like my immediate family has gotten used to it, but some of my distant cousins and people like that, they're having a really hard time. I said, that's not your business. Not your business. Your business is making sure that you stay modest, you put on the hijab, and you focus on your little journey. Not your business to convince and worry about other people. And guess what? Alhamdulillah, she's still a hijabi. And I just, every time I see like pictures, every time I see her, I'm like, no way. Because like it makes me flip. Like, because I know her and her family very well. Such a different case. And it makes me so proud. And that's exactly what I'm telling you. It is so possible. Next thing, that's what I was saying in regards to having people not support you. If you feel like you have to sneak it, put it on outside of your home. If you feel like there's a risk to you and your, safety because your parents might like literally lash out, kick you out of the home, like, of course, go about it in a gentle way. See if you can do it outside once you get outside. But do remember that this is an obligation. It does suck, especially like if you are someone who's not even like a revert. Revert's already hard as is, right? It's hard to just be in a home with a bunch of non-Muslims. And then on top of that, you're trying to be a hijab. It's so many more problems. But if you are a Muslim, our revert sisters and brothers, they go through a lot. The worst that you're probably going to have to do is what? Sneak out, put on a hijab. You'll be fine. Take it slow. I know it's not easy. But I know you'll be fine. I know you'll be fine because this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated on all of us. I know you'll be fine because Allah tells us that He doesn't burden anyone more than He can bear, right? More than they can bear. So if that's the case, then I know you'll be fine. And I want you to know that you'll be fine as well. Let's talk about job opportunities. Let's talk about school. A lot of times people have a lot of fears that they've become a hijabi, they put on the hijab. How are they going to get more job opportunities? How are they going to go to school, college, get recs, whatever? I have so many people that are like, oh, I'm in high school and I'm about to put on the hijab. And my parents are like, no, because then like it's going to affect you getting into a good college, etc., etc., etc. Any place that you get into that is, doing things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to do, it's not a good place. That's how I see it. I don't care where it is. And here's something I'll tell you for a fact. You will get a lot more opportunities and a lot more success in your life following and living by Allah's commandments than you will by your theoretical idea of me not being a hijabi is going to get me more job opportunities and more success. Trust me. A lot of times people do think that. They think that, there's so much Islamophobia. People don't want to hire Muslim people. There's always this problem, or college campuses can be very, very Islamophobic. I don't want to get hate crimed. Look, girl, look. Me and my friends, when we walk on campus, we all got this keychain. It got a pepper spray, a mini taser, and like a couple other things. Put on your hijab, get your little keychain out, and go. Do not worry about what anyone's going to say to you. I was at the mall. Oh my God, let me tell y'all. Lore. I was at the mall like 2 weeks ago. 6 foot grown man. 6 foot grown man. Man. M-A-N. Man. Was being Islamophobic to me. I was like, sir, I'm a 5'3" little girl. What am I saying to you? And you know what? That was the one day where I left my keychain at home. I was like, bruh, what was that thinking? Literally, bro, grown man. I was so taken aback because I'm like, how are you a grown man? And also a woman too. It was 2 people. They were being a little bug for no reason. It's okay. I just continued living my day. And I'll tell you something that the lady at the store said, which really touched my heart. But grown man, like 6'1", you trying to be Islamophobic? You trying to bother a little girl? Like, please, wrap it up, sir. Wrap it up. Pick on somebody your own size. Go somewhere else. Like, get a life. So weird. But I'll tell you something. The lady at the store said, so lady, look, they were just, having a moment. I just kind of like, I tried my best to avoid conflict because at a time in my life, I wasn't this peaceful. But I was like, look, I'm not going to instigate anything with them because they are what they are. I can't do anything. I'm not about to take off my hijab for you. I'm not about to not come to the mall wearing a hijab. I'm not doing none of that for you. I'm never going to see you again. I don't care. Right? Anyway, they left on their own. And the sales associate later came to me later and she was like, you know what? I'm so sorry about them. And I was like, it's okay. Like, it's not your fault. People are like that. She's like, I'm so sorry that they talk to you like that. I'm so sorry that they just think that just because like, you could be from a different religious group or you can be from a different, ethnicity or whatever, like people could just be rude. Like, it makes me so frustrated because we're like in 2024 and we still got people out here, being Islamophobic, being like whatever in the third. And she was just going off. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't mind. And so anyway, I just continued shopping, getting my things. And I came to like checkout and she was standing there and like she was like sitting on her chair and she was really looking flustered. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm still not over what they did to you. And I was like, it's okay. Like, it's not your fault. Like, I'm not even bothered, girl. Like, it's fine. We're used to this. Especially at the mall. Like, come on, we're used to this. And then she was like, no, like, the thing is, if I never said anything to you, you probably would have thought that I was just like them. And that's the big thing that makes a difference. She was the sweetest lady. She was just saying to me, she's like, so many times people see these things, like, whether it's like discrimination, Islamophobia, these different things in public. And even if they think it's wrong, they don't say anything. And that doesn't make them any different than the people that are doing wrong. And I was like, she's 100% right. Because I remember at first I felt kind of like, ooh. And then I was just like kind of like confused because the sales associate, she was like kind of following them around, trying to get them to go out the store. But she didn't say anything. So I was just like, bro, I'm dipping. And then later, like, she talked to me and she was like, I want you to know that it's so important for me to let you know that I support you and that I'm not about that type of timing. It's just that with people like that, especially at stores, like there's so much different conflict, but she's like, it's just so important that when you see things like that, you say something, because then you give the impression that you are also just like them. And I was like, it's fine, girl. It's fine. Just, it's fine. We can laugh it out. It was fine. I went to my car and I kind of sat there for a bit. I cried a little bit. Sent a little angry voice note to my friend. I cried. And then I was okay with it. Because guess what? I knew that was a moment I got a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no point if I go out and let's say, I'm not a hijab, I dress however I want to dress, and, I go out trying to blend into this culture, and okay, like that's just my life, all right. But what's the point? The thing is, in my opinion, if people are going to be racist, or if people are going to be Islamophobic, or if people are just going to be discriminatory, period, they're going to do that regardless, right? That's just that. Whether they find out that you're a Muslim who wears a hijab, or whether you're a Muslim that doesn't wear one, whether they find out you're a person of color, from not seeing the application and then seeing you in real life, like if people keep that opinion, they keep that opinion. That's it. And that's a fundamental problem with them, not with you. You should not continuously feel like you have to shapeshift yourself to fit into a culture and a society which we weren't even meant to really shapeshift and fit into. As Muslims, we are different. We will be different. That's just that. We do not have to try to assimilate ourselves within the society where it's not of our fundamental beliefs. This, especially I live in the West, right? It's not like that here. It's not like that. I know I have many, many listeners that are from all over the world. It's not like that. Like, I'm not going to force myself to assimilate and get used to the culture here in the US because that's how people dress. I'm not, may Allah protect us, but I'm not going to go out there dressed half naked, not wear a hijab because that's what people here do. That doesn't align with my faith. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. And you are not going to do the same either. Just because you think that, I'm not going to land a job, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. There is so much more blessings that you are going to get when you put on the hijab, when you do things the correct way, when you follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obligation, because that is where barakah lies. You think that if you are doing what Allah tells you to do, no matter how hard it is for you, Allah won't see that, He won't reward you for that? He will reward you. Of course He will. He's going to reward you in so many different ways. Not just in this life, but inshallah in the next. You're making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you a job. It's really hard in this market. It's really hard, especially as a hijabi. People, constantly have, this, that, and the third to say. You think that you are struggling because you fulfilled Allah's obligation. Allah's just going to leave you there? Really? 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 Come on. I want you to have a better perception of Allah. I want you to. You think that because you're a Muslim and because you're a hijabi, you're not going to have many opportunities. No. This world and everything in it is controlled by Allah. Who are you asking opportunities from? I know you're not asking from these employers. Come on. Your opportunities come from Allah. And when Allah has declared an opportunity for you, it is for you. It doesn't matter how you are. That is for you. You do not need to be scared of anybody. You do not need to be scared of no employer, no college, no nothing. Nothing. You are going to go far in life. Hold Allah's hand. Hold Allah's commandments. Hold Allah's obligation and go. You're going to go so far. Why are you scared that your parents are saying you're not going to be successful? These job employers are like, we don't want to hire someone like you. Or they're just being a little, touche. Like I have some friends that work at very, 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 very big tech companies. Lore. I don't mess with those companies no more. And they're like the employers there and the employees there. Everybody got a little something to say. Everybody they're a little edgy when it comes in regards to seeing a Muslim girl with a hijab. Everybody got something to say there. And like she hates it. And that's why like most of the day she's like trying to work from home. But the day she has to go into the office, it's like hell breaks loose. And that's what I'm saying. Like some of these places are like that. But I will tell you, she's fundamentally, she's a lot of barakah in her life. Very successful job. People are annoying to her nonetheless. And trust me, when I tell you, I know a lot of people who work in a lot of big companies from very different fields. That's tech, airline, whatever it is. Very different places. Some of them, whether they're even at a position at a school where they're like a dean or so, bro, literal lore, bro. I'm telling you, no one can stop what Allah has written for you. And if you think that following Allah's commandments is going to stop it, I'm going to need you to sit down and reassess who we are talking about. Because we're talking about Allah. Allah's not like that. People can fearmonger you into whatever. But let's be honest. Look at the job market. It doesn't matter if you're a hijabi, not a hijabi, Muslim or not Muslim. Everybody's struggling out here. Shoot, like everybody's struggling to get a job. Matter of fact, my mama says there's no job market. That's what my mom says. She's like, there's no job market. Like the other day I was like, Mom, the job market sucks. She's like, oh, there's no market. There's no market. And honestly, she kind of has a point. Like what it comes down to is that there are some things that are just going to happen. It's going to suck. But do not let your obligations go out of the way. At the end of the day, we don't even know if you're going to live that long. You're going to live that long to graduate college, find this job at this big company you want to go to. No, we don't even know that. You can die tomorrow. And you're worried about a theoretical job 10 years from now. You're worried about a theoretical college application 5 years from now. Don't do that to yourself. Focus on you. Next thing, let's talk about insecurity when it comes to the hijab. Some girls, I think all of us girls probably collectively, like we love hair. We love to do our hair. Like we love to be at home, do our hair. We love to all get pretty. And it's not that you can't get all pretty with the hijab. It's just that, there's obligations. There's way that you have to correctly wear the hijab. We have to avoid doing tabarruj. We have to avoid doing certain things. We have to make sure we cover our hair, etc., 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 right? I understand. I guarantee you, all girls probably at some point you feel insecure. You look at yourself in the mirror, or you look at even other Muslim girls. Sometimes you'll go out, you'll see other Muslim girls that don't wear hijab and they look obviously incredible, but then you kind of feel like, damn, like, I wear a hijab. Like sometimes insecurities like that come in. And one of the best ways that I kind of tackle that insecurity was by first reminding myself a few things. One, when someone sees me on the street, especially as a fresh hijabi, I told myself this. I remember one of the first times when I left my house when I was like a hijabi, I went to Target. The scariest Target trip of my life. I was shaking. I was in the printer paper aisle. I was shaking. I was like, oh my God, everybody's looking at me. They all think I look horrible. No, 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 no. Like they're all, guess what? These are a bunch of strangers. They've never seen me before. They probably thought I wore my hijab my entire life. Okay? That's the first thing. No one is going to look at you like, oh my God, that's a brand new hijabi. Like, oh my God. No. Especially in public, no one's going to know. Two, I say this all the time. Me and you are very, very aware and hyperfixated on our insecurities. We know what things we don't like about ourselves. We know the things we do like about ourselves. Like if you are very, very conscientious about like your nose, I promise you the person on the street is not. I promise you that. And you're sitting here being very, very hyperfixated, conscious about, oh my God, like why does my nose look like that? Or why does my face like that? Like you're just worried about all these different things. And at the end of the day, who cares? First of all, half the people you see on the streets, you're never going to see them again. Nobody cares what they think anyway, especially if they're non-Muslims. Why do you care what non-Muslims are thinking about the fact that you are following the right faith? Next thing, something I believe in firmly. If your faith is right, why are you scared? You know Islam is right. Why are you scared? Why are you scared to put on this hijab? You're scared of the people out there? Oh my God, people are vicious anyway. People are vicious anyway. Get your little taser keychain and let's go out. Do not be scared of these people. Don't be scared of nobody. Allah is protecting you. You are doing His obligation. You are doing His thing. He's protecting you. He protects you always. Do not be afraid of feeling, like, oh, I feel insecure. I feel less than. You are not less than. You are especially not less than. No. You are trying your best to fulfill Allah's commandments. You think you're less than? You're looking at that person in the mirror and thinking, oh, I was pretty, I was better when I wasn't wearing my hijab. Who cares how you look in your sight of yourself? Let's talk about how you look in the sight of Allah. Isn't that what matters? Because look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you see yourself in your sight when it comes in regards to wearing this hijab. You're going to feel insecure. You might feel bad days. You might have these off days. You might feel like this sucks. I don't want to do it. Right now, especially in the fresh of your journey, I want to tell you that none of those negative things matter. It doesn't matter how you look in the sight of yourself if at the end of the day, Allah's going to judge you with His sight. If on the day of judgment, He's going to judge you with His sight. So what really does matter is how you look in the sight of Allah. How you look in the sight of yourself doesn't matter that much. You should try your best to have a good vision, to have a good perception of yourself, to work on yourself and make yourself a good person. But ultimately, on the day of judgment, I'm not going to judge myself from how I think I was. Allah's going to judge me from how He knew I was. He knows everything. Isn't that what matters? If I'm going to get judged in the end by Allah, shouldn't I live my life in a way where I'm doing everything to please Him? At the end of the day, that's what you have to remember. Like, for example, on another level, let's say, you're sitting for an exam and you say to yourself, well, this is so easy. This is so easy. I got this. This is so easy. You're taking all these different online practice tests and you say to yourself, I know this 100%. I know this 100%. This is a very, very easy exam. I'm going to have no issues. Okay? And then you go tomorrow, you take your exam and you're like, what was that? And it was the worst exam you've given in your life and you get a really low score. And your teacher thinks you don't know it. It doesn't matter at the end of the day if you like, I do know it, I do know it, I do know it, but you didn't show that you knew it, right? Like that's kind of what it comes down to. Sometimes we see things with our perceptions and our own sight, and we have to learn when to use our sight, and we have to learn how to integrate that with what Allah ultimately wants for us. And that's the first thing. Look at what Allah wants for you, how you should be in the sight of Allah, and use that as a guideline to make yourself a good person, to make yourself a better person. Allah doesn't say that, the most successful ones are the ones that are working at the best tech companies, making high six figures. He doesn't say that. Successful are the believers. Who are the believers? What are the attributes of a believer? What are the characteristics of a believer? Who are the believers in the sight of Allah? That's what matters. Once we learn how to use Islam as our guideline, Islam and this idea of Allah's watchful eye on us, things get better. So right now, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're like, I don't like the way I look with my hijab. But how do you look in the sight of Allah? Think about how beloved you look to Him. Think about how much He loves the fact that as a woman living in a society where everyone wants you to be dressed in half naked, showing your skin, and that's the only way you're shown some type of respect out here, how do you think you look to Him? Where you are telling yourself, no, even if I don't like it, I know Allah loves it. So I'm doing this for Him. And you know what I believe in very firmly? I believe that Allah changes your heart too. We say that Allah changes the heart of people, but Allah changes your heart too. Subtly, slowly. Where slowly you'll start to feel like, no, I do like the way that I look. Allah places a love and barakah not just in other people's hearts, but also in ourselves. And you should make dua. Of course, wake up at the Hajj time. Make dua to Allah at all these different times of the day that Allah allows you to love yourself in the hijab and to love the hijab and His commandment. To not go far from it. Because it is very easy to trip up and start to think, I would look better without it. These are nothing more than shaitan's waswasa. And we know that shaitan, on the day of judgment, he's hellbound. Shaitan's a done case. Why are you listening to him? You have to be a little bit practical. You have to zone out of your feelings and look at what is. The same way you pray, the same way you know that it's an obligation, it's fard to pray, you have to wear this hijab. And I want you to love it. The same way you teach yourself to love prayer, the same way you learn to love the sweetness of salah, the same way you learn to understand, what am I saying when I pray? Why am I praying? What does prayer do for me? The same way you start to connect with Allah, you're going to connect with Allah through this as well, inshallah. When you give these sacrifices, these things that feel hard on you, on your nafs, but you control yourself and you tell yourself that nothing is more important to me than the sight of Allah on me. You got this. I believe in you. Please go for it. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just put it on your head and go out. Just go out there to the store, go out there to the world. If you don't even feel comfortable telling your family at first, you don't feel comfortable showing yourself as a hijab in front of your family or cousins, just go out there. Go out there. When you go there, it's the next time to the store, just put on your hijab. Put on your hijab, go to the grocery store. No one there's gonna know you. No one there's gonna remember you. No one there's gonna stare at you and be like, oh my God, that's a new hijabi. Maybe they might be like, ooh, Islamophobic a little bit, but who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Leave it. Don't care so much about what people think. Go out there. Put on your hijab. Live your life. Don't be so scared. Don't be so scared. This is something Allah's going to help you with. Allah's going to guide you. Sometimes, especially for me, one of the best things I did was I thought about it. And I thought to myself, like every single time a non-mahram sees me without a hijab like that, that's a sin right there. And there's a bunch of non-mahram around you, especially when it comes to, college, university, whatever. But I wore my hijab before that, alhamdulillah. But I'm just saying generally, like, whether you're in a family, a mixed family, like, bro, sometimes if you feel like you've been debating with yourself for years, I think you know what you need to know. I think you know how to handle it. I think now it's just time for you to do it. You know what you need to do. And I know that you can do it. So go put it on. Don't overstress, don't worry, don't overthink it. Don't even think about it if it overwhelms you. Just put it on and go out there. I promise you, it gets better. I love you. Stay strong. It's hard, I know, but all journeys are easier with Allah. Please take care of yourself. Have a great rest of your day. Assalamu alaikum.